Hey everybody, this is Christopher Brower here with Daily Motor, and today we're driving the 2022 Mazda 3 2.5 turbo all-wheel drive hatchback. A little bit of a mouthful, but this is a very interesting car. Don't even for a second get this confused with Mazda speed. I know from the looks of it and from the sound of it, it sounds like maybe it's a hot hatch, but honestly, I don't really think I would classify it as one. Over the last 10 or so years, Mazda has been really working to change their brand image more towards the luxury segment, and I would more so call this car like a stepping stone to a luxury car. It's a little bit more luxurious than Mazda's past, but it's not quite emerged into the luxury realm just yet. But it's a nice in-between option, and well, I think it looks pretty cool as well, especially in this soul red crystal paint. In my opinion, Mazda has the nicest red on the market right now. It's absolutely gorgeous, and unfortunately video doesn't really do it justice, but it is probably the deepest red color I've ever seen. It has so much detail and just, ugh, I just want to dive into it and live in it, if that makes sense. Anyways, we've also got black wheels on this car, black mirrors, black spoiler. It's all part of an optional extra package that this car has. Let's go ahead and take a look around this thing, and we'll start in the back. Of course, this is a hatchback. You can have it in one of two ways. You can have it as a hatchback, or you can have it as a sedan. The hatchback is a little bit weird because it has a massive C-pillar, and that makes some people not like it very much, but I think that the design of this car is actually quite nice. Under here we have a spare tire and our Bose subwoofer or amp or whatever that thing is, and a snow scraper because, well, it's the first day of May in Michigan. Maybe it'll snow again. I don't know. But honestly, a pretty decent amount of room back here in the Mazda 3. And with the seat down there, you can see it doesn't fold completely flat, but being that this is a hatchback, it opens up your options for what you can actually throw back here. And obviously, these seats fold in a 60-40 formation there. Let's go ahead and move our passenger seat back. Speaking of that back seat, why don't we go ahead and try it out? All right, from the looks of things, okay. All right. So this will be pretty quick, but obviously you can see that my legs are pressed up against the seat. I am 5'11", and the seat is adjusted for my driving position. So it is a little bit disappointing to sit back here and see the lack of legroom and honestly lack of headroom too. I know I've got a camera on my face right now, but I am absolutely touching the ceiling. And as I mentioned, I'm only 5'11", so even short kings will touch the ceiling back here. Anyways, let's take a look at our armrest and cup holders. Pretty good arrangement there. The real problem lies when you have a tall individual. As I just put this passenger seat all the way back, you can see that it's going to be nearly impossible for me to fit back here. I mean, I fit, but I'm very, very cramped. So, back seat, not the most usable thing in the world. Let's say it's more usable for children, but it's really disappointing because other cars that, you know, are in this segment, like the Honda Civic, I mean, shoot, that car's got 6 more inches of legroom or so. At least that's what it feels like. I mean, sitting in the back of the Civic is like a limousine compared to this Mazda 3. So a little bit disappointing, but what's really important up front is quite a bit better than the back seat. We don't even have vents back here or anything. And this light you can't turn on from back here. You have to turn it on from up front. So definitely not a backseat focused car at all. So with that in mind, why don't we get out of the back seat and move up to the front? Before we sit down here, let's take a look at the 2.5 liter turbocharged engine. No hood struts, gotta put it up yourself. All right, so this is the Skyactiv G Turbo 2.5 liter, and when you run premium fuel, you make 250 horsepower and 310 foot-pounds of torque, and we are running premium fuel today, so we will be able to experience that. Lots of wee-woos going on in the background. I apologize for that. But anyways, Mazda usually does a good job with their engine bay attractiveness too. I think that this looks quite nice with this very simple engine cover, and everything looks very easy to work on. It's nice and spread out in here. So good for future tuners who want to buy these Mazda 3s and tune them up to make even more than 250 horsepower. All right, let's go ahead and sit up front and start this thing up. The chime goes for quite a while, and it almost kind of sounds like the old BMW chime, which is funny because the next point I was going to go to is that this infotainment screen and control knob remind me of BMW's iDrive, so which isn't a bad thing because I quite like iDrive. So infotainment is controlled by this knob here. It is not a touch screen. As you can see, nothing happens when I touch it. Normal menu here. Sorry, this is Apple CarPlay. Let's go just to our Mazda menu. Again, very similar to an older version of BMW's iDrive, which is very interesting. Slap your little knob over there to get back to Apple CarPlay. Everything works very smoothly with this infotainment, and if you're curious to get a more in-depth look of this infotainment and the Bose audio system, I will have Charlie's sound system review linked down below. Otherwise, in this interior, it's simple, but it's nice and it's usable. We've got this really nice plush leather here on the dash with stitching. That design is carried through our door panels. We've got soft touch points for both elbows, a really nice leather steering wheel. As I mentioned, this knob is in a nice place for the infotainment. We have a volume knob down here next to the control knob for the infotainment. Our sport button is right here as well next to our shifter. And climate control is also its own physical panel with heated seat, heated steering wheel controls right below it. This works pretty well. As you can see here, everything's physical, it's easy to use, very self-explanatory. Control your temperatures here with these knobs, and you can power that on and off here with this. We'll go ahead and set this down to 65 degrees so I don't sweat to death and so the GoPro doesn't overheat. Otherwise, pretty simple in here. Spot for your sunglasses. We do have a moonroof in this particular Mazda 3. Reading lights up here. And shoot, guys, we just did the fastest interior tour ever in the history of Daily Motor. This folds back and opens because, of course, this is where you set your phone and line in for Apple CarPlay. It's actually kind of convenient because you can just slide this thing back, grab your phone out, put your phone back, and slide it back. But that reminds me, quite a bit of pre-scratched piano black. You can see all of that down there. There is a spot up here for your phone as well if you don't want to have it in the console, so you've got a couple of choices there. As far as our cluster goes, we've got two analog gauges on the left and right hand side, and we have an electronic or digital gauge here in the middle for our speedometer. So pretty nice as well. We've got a button here for our parking cameras. As you can see, we have multiple different views. You can do your rear camera with your 360. Also, these side cameras as well, almost like an Tesla. Pretty cool stuff. I think that is just about it. We've got memory seats, our traction off button over here. These nice speaker covers for our Bose sound system, steering assist, volume, another volume control here on the steering wheel, controls for radar, cruise control, and such. All right, cool. Well, with all that out of the way, why don't we take this Mazda 3 out on the Daily Motor test route and see what it's like to drive. So we went over powertrain, 2.5 liter turbo. Now, behind the 2 liter turbo is a 6-speed automatic transmission, and that is your only transmission option for this 2.5 liter turbo engine. So you can have this engine on the hatchback or the sedan, but regardless of what you do, you're limited to just a 6-speed automatic. And I think that's kind of a shame because they do offer a manual in the Mazda 3. And, well, you just can't have it with the fast engine, so that doesn't really make too much sense. All right, let's see what 250 horsepower feels like. It certainly feels quick, but the way that it's tuned, touching on what I said earlier, you can tell that it's tuned for smoothness. It's not really tuned to feel super fast. It's not snappy in any way, which is a good thing from a daily driving perspective, and also is consistent with where Mazda is going with their company. And is another reason why I wouldn't really call this car a hot hatch or a hot compact, because it just doesn't drive like one. Sure, on paper it may seem like one, but, well, on tarmac, I can't really call it that. Let's try out manual mode here with our 6-speed auto. Watch this. Oh, it held a gear. It's never done that for me before. I think it's because I wasn't full throttle, actually. We're going to try this again around the corner. Well, what I was going to say is that manual mode will shift gears for you, and it always has in the past. It's the first time it's ever held a gear. Let me go flat out and see if it shifts for me. There you go. Okay, so when you're flat out on the gas, it will shift for you, but I was about 3/4 throttle and it actually held the gear, so that is interesting. I mean, just like everything else, I kind of wish it would let me hold a gear, because what I don't like about when it shifts for you is you can't take the car all the way to redline. It shifts at like 5,500 RPM, so is what it is. When you're not on it though, this powertrain is dead quiet. While it's not sporty, the 6-speed automatic delivers very, very smooth and efficient shifts. So really, I mean, if you're looking at this car from the perspective Mazda wants you to, and looking at it as more of a luxurious vehicle, it does a pretty good job at that. Being that it's a 2.5 liter and not like a tiny little 1.6 or 2 liter or something like that, it brings a little bit more sophistication with a 4-cylinder just because it's a little bit larger. A little bit of understeer there around the first corner. Not a tremendous amount of feel from the steering. It feels a little bit woolly, like old BMW M steering, if that makes sense. Also, touching on that understeer, this is an all-wheel drive car, but it certainly feels more like a front-wheel drive car, and that makes sense because it is a front-wheel drive biased platform. The only benefit I could see from all-wheel drive is if you live, well, here in Michigan, and you want something that's going to get through snow efficiently. Well, you can option on, you can tick that box when you're speccing your Mazda 3, because you don't have to have the 2.5 turbo to get all-wheel drive. You can have that with the non-turbocharged engine as well, and you can have it in sedan form. Over the rough ride section there, not too bad. Of course, it's not the most smooth thing ever, because it's not as smooth as, say, an SUV, but for this class, it actually performed very well over those bumps. All right, why don't we go ahead and stop, and we'll do a little bit of a launch. You can see how well this thing gets off the line. We'll stick it into sport mode. We will leave it in just normal drive, but we'll go ahead and turn traction off as well, and we'll just give it a little bit of a brake boost. And there was 60. Motor Trend tested this car 0 to 60 in about 6.5 seconds. That's about what it feels like. I would guess actually maybe even a little bit faster, maybe 6 seconds flat. But it's not jerky. It spun the front wheels a little bit there, but I mean, that's just about all you get from this thing. It's a nice, comfortable experience, but I certainly would not call it sporty. And the whole time I've been driving this car, I've just been kind of reminiscing in Mazdas of years past, because Mazda has just completely changed their brand image upside down. I mean, they used to be, I don't know if you guys remember, I was born in 1998, so growing up, we'd have the TV on and I would hear all of the Mazda commercials, zoom, zoom, and they'd show the cars, they'd have younger people driving them, and that's kind of what they were aiming at. It was just kind of like a car for younger people that was fun, that was sporty. And this, of course, went along with the line of Mazda Speed cars, and there was a Mazda Speed 3. Excuse me for a second as I do this entrance ramp. Oh yeah, quite a bit of understeer right off the bat. The steering is not super confidence-inspiring, if I'm being honest. It is quick enough, though, for you to get ahead of traffic. Come on, Jeep Compass, thank you. Set 74 miles per hour. Radar cruise, you can adjust that with this button here. And it's all just very basic high highway driving assists there. Nice to see all of those items. Though I can't say I figured out the steering assist, because it is white. Usually when things are active, they turn green. But when you touch it, it just turns it off. So I'm not entirely sure what that's about. Anyways, let's get back to talking about my special favorite thing, which is Mazda Speed. So Mazda Speed was Mazda's performance brand. It was active from 2003 all the way to 2013. So, well, I guess when I say all the way, that wasn't too long of a period, just about 10 years. And they made fun little performance cars. They made the Mazda Speed Protege, Miata, Mazda 6, and Mazda 3, all Mazda Speed variants of those cars. And when this car was announced, just a couple of years ago, when they were, all-wheel drive turbo, I was like, oh, Mazda Speed might be making a return. I should have known better that that was certainly not the case, but those Mazda Speed cars were hot hatches. They were hot compacts. They were set up for performance driving. They were fun. They were a little bit obnoxious to look at, and I liked that about Mazda. And, you can think what you want about the direction that they're going. In some ways it's good, in some ways maybe it's not so good. I do really miss those cars, and I kind of wish that they would bring them back. But unfortunately, I don't really see that ever happening. The only positive thing that I can say about the future of Mazda is that there is an inline-6 rear-wheel drive platform coming to Mazda. And, well, what'll that mean? Well, what I'm hoping it means is that there will be a BMW 5 Series Mercedes E-Class competitor coming out from Mazda, because of course that segment of car is kind of dying as well. The Americans no longer make anything that goes with that, I guess, unless you count the Chrysler 300. I don't know that I would really count that. Actually, do they still make the Chrysler 300? Well, they make the Dodge Charger. It's pretty much the same thing. Anyways, though, I'm getting a little bit off topic. Let's get back on the topic of this Mazda 3 that we're driving right now, and I want to talk about price. So this particular car is $36,000 as spec'd. It starts a little bit under that, and that really begs the question, is this car really worth somewhere in the mid-30s, 36 grand for this example? Let's go over what luxuries we do have in here. Well, we've got heated seats, leather seats, heated steering wheel. We've got radar cruise, we've got lane keep assist with that steering assist thing that I couldn't figure out. We've got a Bose sound system. We've got nice leather applique here on the dash. We've got a pretty nice infotainment system with this little iDrive style knob down here by our shifter. We've got a very smooth and powerful powertrain for something in this segment. So on paper, it really seems like it's worth the price. 36 grand, it doesn't seem too bad. But from where I'm sat, I don't really know that I would pay $36,000 for this car. Sure, you get some luxuries in here, but a lot of these so-called luxuries in this car you can have on things like a Kia Forte or like a Hyundai Elantra, things like that. And those cars, with very similar options, are about $10,000 less than this Mazda 3. So, I don't know. I mean, this interior, quality-wise, is certainly above those cars. Don't get me wrong, this interior feels quite a bit nicer. But as far as like driver aids and heated seats, steering wheels, stuff like that, I mean, all of that stuff is readily available at much lower price points. So, I mean, you really just have to decide what's worth it to you. Do you want to go for the higher interior quality, or do you really just not care about that? In which case, you can go out and buy a Kia Forte GT, which is more fun to drive, just as well equipped, and about $10,000 cheaper. So, I don't know, and it's got more room in the back, and it's like technically a smaller car. So, I don't know, guys. Overall, is it a good car? I mean, I like driving it. I think that it would be a good car for some people. Would I buy it? Probably not. But I appreciate that Mazda still makes a hatchback, and they still make a car that's like this. I appreciate that it's not an SUV. It is still a car. People are still able to buy a car. They don't have to buy a CX-30. They can buy a Mazda 3. And I appreciate that. That is the best part about this Mazda 3, is just simply that it still exists. So kudos to Mazda for still making a car. And, well, I hope that they go through with this inline-6 rear-wheel drive platform and make a really nice Mazda 6 replacement as well. And that's going to wrap it up for us today, driving this Mazda 3 2.5 turbo all-wheel drive hatchback. I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I'm curious to hear your opinions on this Mazda 3 and also just Mazda as a whole. What do you think about the direction that the company's going? Do you miss the zoom days? Because I really do. But in other ways, I can see the vision and I can appreciate it. So I guess we'll see what Mazda continues to do, if they continue to evolve. I feel like this is only the beginning for Mazda. I think that they're just going to keep on going and keep on innovating, maybe with some new EVs and hopefully this new inline-6 platform. So we shall see what happens, but for now, this has been the Mazda 3 2.5 turbo all-wheel drive hatchback. Kind of some mixed feelings on this car. I do like it, but of course I wish it were a little bit more zoom. All right, cool. Well, that's going to end it for us today. Let's do a little bit of a walk around, one last little walk around the car, and then that'll be it. One more chance to look at this beautiful Soul Red. I will say, if you do want to buy a Mazda 3, get it in Soul Red, because that just makes everything better. You have to see this color in person to appreciate it. It's absolutely stunning. All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much for watching. This has been the Mazda 3, and this has also been Christopher Brower here with Daily Motor. And as always, drive on.